Hello, and welcome to the Brooklyn Baby Podcast with me, your host, Charlene Sabb. I'm hoping everyone had a wonderful week, productive week, a blessed week, and I'm just hoping that everyone is just going to enjoy their weekend, have fun, hopefully in the sun, and just enjoy themselves. Well, our topic today is going to be family, and family is going to be pretty much a theme that in different aspects I'm going to be hitting on during this podcast in the long run because family means so much to me. So let's get into it. To me, family is everything. It is, and that's just the way I was raised. And I was blessed and fortunate to have a very prominent family, successful family, strong family, very stable. I'm not going to say my family is perfect, but it was very idyllic in the sense that my dad, the patriarch, my mom, the matriarch, always instilled strong family values. Now, whether I wanted to deviate from certain things, that's another topic and probably a whole nother podcast episode. But at the end of the day, they did instill so much greatness into me, my older sister, who's 10 years older than me, and my son, who pretty much, my parents, I always credit them. Not only did he have the blessing of having me as a mom and his dad, but he also had his paternal grandparents who enjoyed many decades of marriage, as well as my parents, his maternal grandparents, as additional parental figures. So I feel that Michael's, because people look at Michael, they're like, he's just a great young man. And as a child growing up, he was always well mannered, polite, respectful, never caused me an ounce of problem, ever. Just never. And I would say just growing up, I think even I was like, a good girl, cookie cutter girl. I think I was a little more problematic for my parents than my own son was to them. And I'm not saying I was a problem child. I'm just saying, like, he never rocked the boat, never caused a problem for anyone. Whereas I was, as a child, a little more sneaky, um, a little rebellious in my own way, but not too rebellious because I would get the black slapped off me. Trust and believe. But I mean like rebellious, like low key doing things that I wanted to do that went under the radar. So my point is, I credit my I just want to credit and always do credit uh, that whole saying it takes a village to raise a child is really true because really that was the culmination of everything that to raise help to raise Michael. I was, as I mentioned before, 19 when I got pregnant, 20 when I gave birth, in college, and when I finished the University of Virginia at my graduation, my son, as my graduation photos show and everything, he was 3 years old by my side. So, and I finished with my bachelor's degree. Yep. So it wouldn't have been possible without the family dynamic. My family. Um, there were times when my family would drive all the way down from New York City to Charlottesville, Virginia, to pick Michael up and take him back to New York with them. And during times when I had like major exams or projects or my workload got heavy with the university, and they would take him home to ease my burden. And they were working full-time jobs. You know, my dad was working at the hospital, my mom working for the New York City Department of Health. But they still took time to help me out driving across multiple states, hundreds of miles just to lighten my burden. But that's what we did as a family. And luckily, when they did take him to New York to lighten up my burden, or my workload got heavy at the university, the same relative who helped take care of my mother, she was 10 years older than my mother, my uh, cousin, her name was Claudia, because when I was a young child, I couldn't say Claudia, so I just called her, because I couldn't say Claudia, so I used to try to say Claudia, so I would say Yaya, Yaya, and the name stuck. So for decades later, everyone knew this great cousin. She was like our Medea before there was a Medea. She was like the coolest thing since sliced bread. She was my mother's older cousin. She was 10 years older than my mother. They were both raised together in rural South Carolina. My mother was born and raised in Kingstree, and her family owned a farm. No, they were not sharecroppers, and I'm not bashing sharecroppers, but it was quite something back in my mother was born in 1941, that you had black family actually owned their farm when many people did not. So it was just a blessing, and she actually inherited that land. It was like 69 acres as she became an adult after the passing of her parents. But yeah, so my point is the same cousin, Yaya, who took care of my mother, because back in the day, if you were like 10 years older than a child in the family, you were old enough to take care of that child, like babysit and stuff like that. So this cousin Yaya would babysit my mom in South Carolina. And then when a lot of black Americans, they graduate from high school, then move up north. And my mother did that as soon as she finished high school at 18. She moved up north to Brooklyn, New York. And then this same cousin also moved up north also. And then she set up in-home daycare, this cousin, Yaya. And then when I was born, this same cousin who now had an in-home daycare took care of me. And then when my son Michael was born, because I stayed in New York for a couple of years after his birth, because I took 2 years off from college, she took care of Michael whenever I needed a babysitter. And then when I went back to college, about a year after giving birth to Michael, she took care of Michael, because Michael stayed with my parents for a few months till I got transitioned into the family housing that the University of Virginia had for married students or students with children. So that was a blessing that UVA had that. So the same cousin who I couldn't call her name Yaya, I couldn't say Claudia, I used to call her Yaya. So we see how it evolved. She took care of my mother. Then I also found out she took care of my sister when my sister was little. And now she's taking care of my child. So, yes, so the same cousin now is Michael's babysitter. So my point is family, family, family is so important. It's key. And it just means a lot. And like I said, Yaya was like not only my mother's older cousin, but like she was like a sister cousin. Have y'all had those probably sister cousins where they seem like y'all are like deeper and closer than a lot of sisters are, but they always got your back? But you're your cousin, but they feel like a sister. Well, she was my mother's sister cousin. And like I said, she was like a Medea before Tyler Perry and Medea. Unfortunately, she passed away on Thanksgiving Day in 2011. She had uh, closed up and retired her in-home daycare in Brooklyn and moved back to the area of South Carolina where she and my mom were born and raised. And she passed away at Thanksgiving Day 2011. And and that's why I say family means so much, because she's the type of person, she loved her rum. I know she would come visit my parents, whether it was in their home in Brooklyn or when my parents relocated to Raleigh, North Carolina. I know when Yaya came to town, her and her sister Esther, I know Yaya had to have her rum, and my dad would give me the money to go to the local liquor store to get Yaya her rum. And she would just tell stories, and she had a strong uh, Geechee accent to the point where sometimes it was hard for me to determine what she was saying. She was truly Geechee, and she was the type of person where you didn't mess with any of hers, and I was considered one of hers. So she took care of babies, was loving, but she would mess somebody up right quick, cut you and gut you if you mess with any of hers. You know what I'm saying? Or treat any of hers unfairly. And I'm sure a lot of you have that in your family. People who are just so loving, giving, the core of a lot of families, but they didn't play that when it came to their family. And they didn't play that when they felt that someone from their family was not treated right. They were like the equalizers before there was an equalizer, you know? Yeah, so Yaya, I took pride saying, yeah, I remember at her funeral telling people, they would use the term Yaya. I said, and I reminded people, I said, y'all do realize that it's because of me. As a baby, I couldn't say Claudia, and I would call her Yaya instead. So for decades, that name stuck within the family until her death. And a lot of my relatives, they said, yeah, we do realize. But I had to flex a little bit and say, you know what, it was because of me. I termed I coined that term. So yeah, just a little something about mom and her family and the dynamic. But it's just important. And I know everyone's family situation is not cookie cutter and this, that, and the third, but I'm just grateful. Life has a lot of problems, adversity, but I'm so blessed to say that my family has been a blessing. If I were to, die tomorrow, God forbid, and come back, I would want to come back to the same family. Because, I'm saying it's perfect and that we didn't have problems. Everybody has problems. But I would take the problems that we have over um, what life could have been and what other people have. So I'm going to also say this as well, because of the family dynamic that I have, and what I have, the examples I've been given. That's a big reason when people ask about the whole single thing. And I'm like, when you're shown what true love looks like, and when you're shown what a true strong family dynamic looks like by example, you think, well, why settle for less than what I'm accustomed to? So that's another big reason why. No, not another big reason. That's the major reason why. And people have been falling short. People have been falling short, So yeah, just rather remain single than tie myself up with a person's not right. And people say, oh, maybe you don't want to really be in a relationship because you always get out of stuff real fast, and you broke an engagement that was coming, and so another person wanted to marry you, but you didn't give them a chance. Well, yeah, I'll be that person. I was that person. I am that person. But at the same time, I just don't believe in settling. I know there was even a situation where when I was pregnant with my son, his father and I had a little break because he was acting like a knucklehead at the time. This is, of course, before the engagement to be engaged, before the ring was coming my way. that I mentioned about in another previous podcast. Um, a college classmate. He was an engineer student. He was the top in his graduating class. Um, a young man from Africa who was one of our students and the highest with the highest GPA of his graduating class. He was a couple of years older than me, but he wanted to date me and wanted to marry me, and he was just so enamored and all this other stuff when I was pregnant. But I said no. I was too much in love with the father of my child, and I knew we were going to work it out. Even though this man is now a successful engineer, making the big bucks, but I didn't feel a love or attraction for him. So um, then, just the way I was raised, you don't just date somebody or be with someone just for what they can do for you or their title. And yeah, because a lot of people would have been blown away. Oh, he's comes from a great prominent family back in Africa. He's the top student of his graduating class in UVA, and he's an engineer. He's going to be an engineer. He's So I wasn't taken by that. Even though he was a great guy, but he wasn't a great guy for me. Because I know if I build something with this person, I'm not into him. What kind of That's not the way my family raised me to be. So as far as family, life is short, and I mentioned in the previous podcast, my mom passed away earlier this year in February on the 19th. Always make time for family, and that's one thing I'm grateful for. Um, you know, just always made time for them. I always made time for my parents. My parents always made time for me. I always made time for my son. My son always makes time for me as well. Because those are times you can't get back. And you never know. Life's. Death can occur. Anything can occur. But you don't want anything to happen where you look back like, oh, damn it, I should have spent time with this person. Oh, I should have treated this person better. Or, oh, I should have did this. I should have did that. I could rest my head down with dignity at night to go to sleep knowing that, I did the best I could for my family. I did. And I'm still doing that. So but at the same time, even though family is very important, you don't want to be a whipping board or subjected to abusive or very vile, problematic, disrespectful family members either. Because that's a whole nother podcast I could get into because I was straight up disrespected and attacked by a family member at a family reunion. But we won't even get into that during this podcast. But my point is, if someone is disrespectful, not kind, you don't have to put up with that either. So that's a whole nother can of worms. You want to be around people in your family who are positive, kind, just like friendships. You don't have to put up with abusive family either now. That's ridiculous. And basically, as far as family dynamic is concerned, you do what's best for you and your family. What works for one other person's family might not work for another, and that's okay. And this leads me to my next point. Whatever does go on within your family should stay within your family. Family business should remain family business. Whatever you and your family are going through, it's not for the streets. It's not for coworkers. It's not for, a lot of times, not even for lovers and friends. Just keep it within your family. I just feel like there's a level of loyalty that goes into family, and by sharing information with outsiders, that breaks the code. That's against the code. There's a lot of things that go on that I just feel like you need to take to the grave. It doesn't have, certain things just don't need to be shared with outsiders. And a lot of times people want to know your family business just to have something on you anyway to throw in your face. So, yeah, so bottom line, love on your family, treat family with love and respect, but at the same time, don't be a doormat to family by all means, don't stay around toxic, abusive, or even mooching, money grabbing takers who are family members either now. No one should be subjected to that. And family business should remain family business. Well, that's all for now. Hope you enjoy. Until next week. Bye.